we're going to be looking at proportional reasoning, and we're going to use diagrams and concrete materials to solve this question. The overall expectation is to solve problems involving proportional reasoning, and specific expectation is to solve problems requiring the expression of percent, fractions, decimals, and equivalent forms. So here's our inquiry-based question. Okay, we'll read through it once, highlight what's important the second time we read through it. There are 270 grade 9 students at a high school, and 80% of these students attend the spring dance. Half of the grade 9 students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door. How many grade 9 students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door? Okay, so let's highlight what's important. This is a two-part question. There are 270 grade 9 students. That's important to us. And 80% of these students attend the spring dance. Very important for us. And essentially, that's our part one of this question. Part two. Half of the grade 9 students who attend a dance buy tickets at the door. So half of the grade 9 students buy tickets at the door. How many grade 9 students who attend the dance buy tickets at the door? Okay, so that's what our actual question's asking us. And we'll break this into two parts. Part one we'll kind of solve on this page. So as you can see, I've built a relatively large fraction. It's like a fraction block, actually, you'd say. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with percentages as fractions. So we have that value of 80%. Let's zoom in again so it's nice to look at. We have 80%. And to turn any percentage into a fraction, you just have to put it above 100. So we'll have 80 above 100. That works out great, okay? Except that I don't have it quite split into 100. And I am going to split into 100 a little later. But for now, I have it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to try to reduce this fraction as low as possible. So to reduce this fraction as low as possible, I know I can divide both the top and the bottom by the values of 10. And that'll get me to 8 over 10, which is going to be important for what we're doing later. And I can reduce 8 over 10 also. I know those both can be divided by 2, the top and the bottom. So to do the top, we got to do the bottom, and that gives me 4 over 5, which works out great because I have 5 sections here. So let's kind of highlight our 4 of our 5 sections, okay? And I think I can just write it over. And what I'll do for this is set that up, and there's our 4 of 5 sections, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just quickly finish filling that. Okay, so we've set up there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and clearly 4 of them have been highlighted. So we've set up our fraction here, okay? Because there's 270 students, one of the ways we're going to do this is we're going to split that 270 into a bunch of different base blocks, okay? One of the first ones I'm going to split into is a base 10. So we're going to focus on the 70 because this will always stay as 80%. As long as I have this highlighted and I just manipulate the sizes in there, I can figure out what everything is. So right now it's 4 of 5. Right? We have that written down here. But what's more important is we want to find what if it was out of 10. Now, technically, we already know that answer. I'm going to split this right in the middle. 5 right there. Okay? Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is the first number we had above. 8 of 10. So that means if there were 10 students, okay, so 8 of 10. Okay, and what we're going to be doing is constantly adding up these values. Okay, so we have 10 to start. Another faster way we can do this, if we take 10 away, we're at 260 now. Okay, think of it like we're constantly subtracting 10 from, or whatever our value is here, from our total of 270. Now we want to think of 20. Okay, well, if 20, I can split this up again very nicely. If I put a line here, and put another line here, we still have 80%. Well, not quite where I wanted it. Sorry, let's get that line again. There we go. 2.5 and 2.5. Perfect. And now we're at 20. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, which means there are 16 of 20. Okay, so I know we're doing some mental math here. 10 plus 20 is 30. If I add another 20 to that, that's 50, okay? And if I add another 20 to that, that's 70, which is great. That gets rid of the 70 students. So of and of. And again, we're going to be adding all the values on the left here. The idea is that we've got to add all these, have to add up to 270. The next thing we want to do is of 100. And we technically already know of 100. We have it written out here, but I'm going to show you on our little diagram. It should technically be 80. Each of these lines actually represents, that's not the number I want to hit. If we go and put a line on each of the unit blocks here, you can see in the background of our graphing paper. So if I constantly take another and another, it's actually going to end up being a 10 by 10 grid. And a 10 by 10 grid, actually right now it's 5 by 10. I got to put some vertical ones in. So if you give me a minute, I'll set that all up and you can see what the final result is. Okay, so we manipulated our grid, and now there are 8 this way by 10 this way, which gives us a total of 80. And we already knew that value was going to be 80. And if I add another 100 to that, 80 of 100 gives us our total. So of our 270, if you take a calculator and add 10 plus 20, it's 30, plus 20 is 50, 70, 170, 270. You can use a calculator to double check that. Okay, there's 270. Of the 270, we now add up all of these fractions that we have. Okay, and if we add them all up, I guess I'll take a calculator out to help us a bit here. We have our 8 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 80 plus 80 should give us 216. Perfect. So what that means is 216 students attended the dance. Now I could have made a grid of 270, which would have been hard, but I worked with round numbers that I was very much used to. Okay, so that is the part 1 of this question. Okay, so now let's look at part 2. Half of the grade 9 students who attend buy their tickets at the door. How many buy their tickets at the door? So, a half. We're going to work with this diagram I built on the other page because this will be a little easier for us to work with. First of all, a half can usually be represented as 50%. Right? Anytime we want to turn a percentage into a fraction, we put it over 100, like we said before. Okay? And we can reduce this fraction. Now, we already have 50 over 100, which we know is important. So, what we're going to do is, again, we're building our ofs, and as you can see, I've just added another set here. 50%. We're going to reduce this. Right now we have it as a set of 10. So I know I can reduce this fraction by dividing both of these by the value of 10. And when I divide the top and the bottom by 10, I'll get a fraction of 5 over 10. Works out really well. And again, I can divide both of those by 5, and if I do, I'll get 1 over 2. Okay, and this will help us a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight what part of that a half would represent. So 5 out of these 10 blocks would be represented right here. And I would do the exact same thing to the smaller one because that's going to come in handy for what we have to do next. So I'm going to highlight these. So this is what it would look like if we had 5 of 10. Now we know what we do need is we need values of 100. So I can turn this into a 100 grid once again. And if we just kind of visualize that each of these lines, these blue lines here, is another grid, we'll end up with 50 of 100. We've already said that. So to get to 216, we know we need 50 of 100. That gives us 100. 50 of 100, that gives us a 200 total, and then we need kind of 16 more, and that's why I've built this 2 by 2 grid here. This 2 by 2 grid, we have 2 of 4, and I can turn this into 16 pretty quickly by just adding a few more lines. Okay, and if you notice, now this is a 4 by 4 grid, which is of 16. We have 8 of them colored, so we have 8 of 16. So when we add all this together, that gives us our 216. And if we add all these together, 50, 50, and 8, you can use a calculator if you need to. That means 108 students. So that would say 108 students bought tickets at the door for the dance who are in grade 9. Okay? So if you'd like to see other ways on how to solve this question, you can check out our other playlists that have to do with proportional reasoning.